When we build our opening repertoire, and the opening repertoire I recommend for white is with e4 first move, and quite frequently you will see e5 move, maybe same number of times as you're going to see c5. So e5 is very big chapter in our opening preparation for white. So on e4, e5, I recommend Scotch Gambit or two knights defense, whatever, different publications they call it differently, and also of course Giuoco Piano, because that's the opening you cannot do without, because it's up to black to play after knight f3, knight c6, next move bishop c5, and then it will be Giuoco Piano. So the move order I recommend here to get to Scotch Gambit or to knight defense that I was talking about now is d4, e takes d, and bishop c4. That's where the deviation between two knights defense, which is knight f6, and Giuoco Piano, bishop c5, begins. Now let's talk about these two openings. Now, before we get to one big chapter or second big chapter, let's talk about all the other moves. All the other moves are much weaker. Let's get them out of the way. There is move bishop to e7, not recommended for black, and the best response for white is c3. Now after c3, black has choices to take on c3, to push d3, or to play knight f6. Now, if black plays d3, then they quickly get very bad, maybe lost position, after queen to b3, attacking f7's pawn, which cannot be protected. Well, for example, if black goes knight a5, bishop takes f7, king f8, and queen a4. Now you can see that if black takes white's bishop, white is going to take knight on a5. Now black's king is not castled, and also d3 pawn is practically lost. So this is real bad for black. So bishop e7 is really bad move, and if black plays d takes c, then queen d5 is very strong, and it seems like it wins on the spot, wins the piece. It is not so, but white gets considerable advantage. Well, knight h6 can be played by the black. White plays bishop takes h6, and black has to castle, not to get mated on f7, and now white has two choices. White can play bishop takes g7. Notice that bishop is hanging on h6, and also black is threatening c takes b, trapping the rook on a1. And if white plays bishop c1, then knight b4, attacking the queen and threatening knight c2 check, and if white plays queen d1, then pawn to c2. That's not that clear. So, but the clear way to play for white in this position is simply bishop takes g7, king takes g7. Now you see c takes b cannot be played because bishop will take on b2, and white has an extra piece. But white gives up an extra piece, king takes g7, And now after knight takes c3, material is even, and white has much better position. You see exposed black king. So this is the way that black can play bishop e7, but it's not really good. They get real bad position. So bishop e7 we just looked at, and there is a move bishop b4 before we get to either two knights defense to Giuoco Piano. Those are the side variations. Bishop b4 check. Now we have to go c3, pawn takes c3, and theoretically book recommends castle here, which is not a bad move. Castle is a good move, but move I recommend is also very powerful and maybe even better than castling. I recommend b takes c to have black to move the bishop. Three different squares. Bishop can go to a5, bishop can go to c5, or bishop can go to d6. Bishop cannot go to e7 because after queen d5, white wins immediately. f7 cannot be protected. d6 leads to a checkmate and bishop e6, and knight h6 just loses a piece because bishop takes h6, and black has to castle, and white is going to move the bishop back. So this is not one of the options for black to play bishop e7. Now bishop d6 will block their own pieces. Bishop d6 blocks the other bishop on c8 because black will not be able to play d6. So, and bishop c5, we simply gonna get our pawn back having a superior position. Bishop takes f7 check, king takes f7, and queen to d5 check. Now king has to move somewhere. Wherever king moves, white simply plays queen takes c5, and you see black cannot castle anymore, and that's why their position is not good. So that leaves one and only move, bishop to a5. Now after bishop to a5 with the pawn on f7 here, we simply castle, and now black has to develop rest of their pieces and castle. How can they do that? In order to develop, black must go d6 first. They cannot develop the knight on g8 without playing d6. Now let's see why. Knight e7 is real bad. We go knight g5, attacking f7 square, and not allowing black to castle. Now if black castles, they just lose right away. After queen h5, threatening queen takes h7, and threatening knight takes f7. Black is lost, so only move they have is knight e5, and now we have pleasant choice between knight takes f7, knight takes f7, bishop takes f7, king takes f7, queen h5 check, and wherever king moves, we just simply take bishop on a5, and we have again better position because black's king's position is compromised. So this is one way to get an advantage for white, but maybe, not maybe, I'm almost sure the better way is bishop to b3. Now black cannot castle because f4 will be very powerful, followed by queen h5. And in this position, if black goes h6, white will go f4, and after h takes g, pawn takes e5, black is lost. f7 pawn is a terrible weakness, and if black castles, there will be queen h5 attacking f7, and after g6, queen h6, followed by bishop takes g5, black is helpless. So that's why black must play in this position d6 first. Now what happens if black plays knight f6? Well, on knight f6 we will go e5. And now knight is hanging on f6. Knight e5 will be followed by queen d5. And so they have to prepare development of the knight by playing d6 first. After d6, the key move for white is to play queen to b3, attacking f7 pawn. Now black has to defend with queen e7 or queen f6. Queen e7 is a little better. Then we have the key move is e5. And now if pawn takes, well, notice that if knight takes, then we take the knight, and black must take with the queen, and then we take the f7 pawn. And the reason why black must take with the queen, because if pawn takes, then we give check and win the bishop on a5. So after d takes e, here is the idea. That's why we gave pawn, that we go bishop a3, and after queen f6, knight b to d2. Now black has to try to castle. If black castles, they have two extra pawns, and they will have very good position. On knight e7, we go knight e4, attacking queen, which has to go to g6, and then we have very powerful move that almost wins the game, practically wins the game. Bishop takes e7. It looks counterintuitive, because why would we give the bishop that placed on a3 so well? Why would we give for this knight? We give because there is a concrete reason for it. Well, suppose black plays knight takes e7. Now this check is not going to do anything, because knight will come back to the c6 and protect a5 bishop. So what we play here, we play knight e to g5, threatening f7 pawn. And if black castles, looks like black managed to castle and they're doing well, but they're losing after knight takes f7. And when rook takes on f7, after knight takes e5, black loses rook and the game. So based on this, black cannot play knight takes e7 in this position. Well, now let's see what happens with king takes e7. On king takes e7, we can just play rook to e1, or even give queen a3 check first. King goes to e8. Now this king will never castle. Black's king is in the center, rook goes to e1, the other rook goes to d1. Why black cannot survive this position? It's totally winning for white. And we cannot go like all the way through with it, but take my word, this is very, very bad for black, and you can play it out using your computer programs, and you will be convinced that position is totally lost for black. So in the only other choice black has is queen takes e4, but then white goes back with the bishop to a3, followed by rook e1, and black will never ever castle. Rook e1 and rook d1, every one of white's pieces aiming black's king. Well, see, when we go rook e1 and then rook d1, you see that knight on f3, both bishops, queen, and both rooks. That makes 6 pieces attacking white's king, black's king that is stuck in the center. Black's position is absolutely hopeless here. And actually, after bishop to a3, we're threatening also bishop takes f7, we're threatening rook e1, and there's a lot of problems for white. So what black can do here after bishop takes e7? Knight d2, queen g6. Bishop takes e7. After bishop takes e7, black already lost. This is bad position for black.